Fear of top roping is much more frequent than we think. It might be because it's your very first time climbing, but in most cases, it's because top roping or rope climbing in general has been avoided. Top roping is usually intimidating and bouldering is much more accessible. You don't need social interaction, you don't have to take costly green card courses, and you don't need a harness either. This was also my case. The accessibility of bouldering was my excuse not to overcome the fear that I was feeling. Then there is another step. When you are top roping, but you always do it statically and in control, so you don't dare to do dynamic moves. Whether it's your very first time rope climbing, or you're the type of person that climbs but doesn't feel completely at ease when on a rope, this is the guide for you. Let's start with the case of first-timers. These steps are the steps that I suggest for people who are trying rope climbing for the very first time or after a very long break, or if you're trying to bring someone to rope climbing to the gym for the first time and you notice that they're nervous, I highly suggest you to follow these steps. Firstly, it's important for the person to get accustomed with the safety chain that will basically keep them alive. You should know that every gym is checking the ropes monthly and consistently, and they are cutting them or replacing them much sooner than it will be needed. Your check on the ground is super effective. Ask your belayer to take so that you can actually sit on the rope and on the harness while you are on the ground. Familiarize with the sensation and focus on your reactions. Do you notice that you're tensing up? Are your shoulders elevated? Are you contracting your trapezius? Focus on the breathing and try to relax and get used to the sensation as possible. Talk about your concerns with your belayer. Tell them that you want to familiarize with being on the rope and that you would like to sit on the harness at different heights on the wall. You should always communicate with your belayer, afraid or not. You should know that you can actually ask for a take so that you can just comfortably sit on the harness whenever you feel like it. In this way, you can avoid just having to let go and fall. Also, don't avoid looking down. When you do, remember that you are in the safety chain, and it's actually not much different from being on a balcony. You learned to trust the balcony, you can learn to trust the rope. Keep going forward, taking these sitting steps, getting as high as you can or reaching the top without feeling too much in discomfort. If you're belaying someone for the first time, please avoid putting them in the auto belay, and please do not push them to reach the top of the route in their first go. Make them feel comfortable first so that they won't hate the experience once they reach their highest point. This third step is for people who are already familiarized with top roping but don't dare to do dynamic moves because they still feel a bit uncomfortable and afraid of falling. This can happen even when you've been climbing for a while. Usually, our mental image of top rope falls are not very realistic. We expect something like this, while in reality they look much more like this. And this was also a fall with lateral swing. But knowing this is usually not enough. It's normal to feel uncomfortable at the idea of letting go of contact points. Our brain is unconsciously keeping track of all of the events that we are experiencing and evaluating all the probabilities of the outcomes that might happen, including death. Your reactions are proportional to the expectation that you have of the possible events. The more positive experience you make, the more realistic the expectation of the risk will become, and this will also change your emotions accordingly. So why is it that so many people are struggling or having a very hard time with making falling training? Well, actually this is because your thoughts and your inner dialogue plays a huge role into the process of your management of expectations. Depending on many factors, and most importantly on your basic level of anxiety, you will influence your process of belief updating. In the worst case scenario, you could have a panic attack. And this will not only give you a horrible experience, will also make your graph look completely flat. How do we prevent this from happening? Taking small and comfortable steps outside of your comfort zone. Start with this little exercise. You go on the wall and use every hold to do double-handed dead points. It usually feels very natural to let go of both hands at the same time when you're on the rope. And this is why I also love to do this exercise when I'm warming up. And this also works as a great mental warm-up. After this, you can start taking controlled falls. If you need, you can make a countdown in your head.
Okay, give her a bit of slack. Just a tiny bit. Vai! Okay. Is that okay? Okay.
The less time you spend thinking or overthinking about your fears, the less you will update your belief and your expectations that will obviously become more negative because you're anxious. Followingly, if you get familiar and comfortable with just letting go, even if you're counting down, try to make a couple of moves and just let go as soon as you touch the hold.
Relax. How are you feeling?
Yes,
Are you okay?
I'm alive.
You're alive.
Finally, try to make the touch and go exercise. Try to do a dynamic move, touch the hold, and just let go. I suggest to do these exercises once a week, but only if your level of distress is not too high. This does not apply to lead falling training. While these exercises could be useful for people that are afraid of falling on lead, this is not the protocol that I would suggest because of various reasons. Firstly, lead climbing entails much more risk than top rope. While on top rope, with the experience, you will learn that there are very little things that you have to think about when you're falling on top rope. This is absolutely not the case in lead. And also, when you're trying to overcome fear of lead climbing, I wouldn't start with falling training anyways. But if this is your case, don't worry, I will make multiple episodes on how to overcome fear of lead falling. Let me know if you apply these steps, if you find them useful, and if there's still something that is pulling you back. Let me know in the comments, maybe I can help you. And in the meantime, I'll see you in the next video, and stay psyched.